The icy breath of winter clung to the air as the skeleton-like trees of the Ardennes forest loomed ahead, their twisted branches scratching against the overcast sky. Corporal James McAllister felt the weight of the chill seep into his bones. But it wasn't just the cold that made his pulse race. It was the deafening silence that acted as a prelude to chaos. He tightened his grip around his M1 Garand, its cold metal pressing against the warmth of his palm, a stark reminder of the horrors that lay ahead. It was December 16, 1944, and under the cover of darkness, the German Wehrmacht was preparing for one of the most audacious offensives of the war, the Battle of the Bulge. It was a last-ditch effort by Hitler to split the Allied forces in the Ardennes and capture the strategic port of Antwerp. James, a fresh-faced soldier from a small town in Indiana, hadn't seen the full extent of battle like some of the grizzled men beside him. Yet the air was thick with anticipation, a silent premonition that this clash would leave its mark on them all. "Keep your eyes peeled, lads," Sergeant Arnold Caldwell barked, his voice echoing through the squad, a grizzled man in his mid-30s with a demeanor that spoke of countless firefights. "Stay sharp. They'll come at us like a whirlwind." As the sun began to ebb beneath the horizon, its last rays slipping away like fleeting memories, the quiet was broken only by the muted shuffles of soldiers adjusting their positions and the distant crackling of branches. Each heavy breath, each hushed whisper hung in the air like a ghost, an impending dread threading through the men like an unspoken bond of fear and courage. They were brothers in arms bound by duty, and though their hearts raced at the thought of what was to come, there was an unyielded resolve shimmering beneath the surface. Somewhere deep in the underbelly of the forest, the German tanks rumbled to life, their engines growling like beasts awakening from slumber. The sounds echoed ominously, seeping into the minds of the American soldiers. James shot a sideways glance at Private David Tremont, just a year older than him, his youthful face twisted in uncertainty. "You all right?" he whispered. David nodded, though it seemed more of an instinct than a truth. It was clear he was just as scared, just as uncertain. The camaraderie and vulnerability they shared in that moment formed a bond thicker than blood. "Let's remember names, all right?" James said, the thought of tomorrow's battle hanging heavily between them. "If we make it through this, we'll meet back at home and go fishing." David cracked a nervous smile, his voice a mere whisper. "Yeah, and maybe even visit the Grand Canyon." Laughter crackled through the thick tension, a fragile flicker of hope against the coming storm. They were boys, really, 20-somethings thrust into a world that required them to be men, to brave the horrors of war with a smile that would mask their fears. Night fell heavily, wrapping the forest in a blanket of darkness. Their world shrunk to the flickering shadows of their campfires, the blinking stars obscured by clouds of snow. Hours passed, filled with whispered promises, but the anticipated rupture of explosives did not come. Instead, a stillness shrouded them, an eerie lull before the inevitable storm. With dawn's first light slicing through the trees, blinding in its brightness, the sounds that shattered the forest's tranquility were not birdsong, but the thunderous clamor of heavy artillery. German shells began to rain down around them, the impacts reverberating through the ground as shockwaves propelled the men into action. "Get down," Caldwell shouted, already moving, barking orders as shrapnel whined overhead. James dove into the frozen earth, heart hammering against his ribs like a frantic drummer. The chaos erupted instantly. Tendrils of smoke twisted into the air, mingling with the cries of men caught in the explosion of metal and fire. The trees, standing stoic mere moments ago, were now splintering under the weight of combat, with branches falling like spears raining down on the men below. James crawled to cover, the clanging of weapons drowned out by the sound of his own thoughts racing. He had only seen training films, watched comrades fraternize when not in the field, but none of it had prepared him for the visceral reality unfolding now. He could almost hear the echo of his mother's voice, reminding him with every word how precious life was, how fragile. "James, get your head down," David bellowed nearby, urgently guiding him away from an incoming barrage of fire. Adrenaline spurred James to move, pulling him from his stupor as he scrambled behind a tree trunk, the wood splintering beneath the force of explosives. The assault wasn't just a test of strength, but of resolve. One moment, they were soldiers. The next, they were frightened boys fighting for their lives. Moments blurred, with time suspended as explosions punctuated the air, the taste of dirt and metal thick in their mouths. "Rally at the creek," Caldwell yelled, pulling men from their various makeshift shelters and drawing them toward the small gully that lay several yards ahead. "Stick together, you hear me? Stick together." Amid the orchid of chaos, there was David, pacing near the creek, rifle slung nervously in his hands. James could see he was trembling, not just from fear, but from the weight of so many lives hanging in the balance. "We can't stay here much longer, James." David's eyes mirrored panic, and yet there was something more profound, a growing determination rippling beneath his surface. In that moment, the world shrank, and it was just the two of them, brothers against the torrents of destruction. "We'll make it," James said. "I promise." Suddenly, a piercing scream fractured the air, breaking the solidarity of their shared fears. It was from the flank. As they turned, a flurry of soldiers, German infantrymen, came charging through the snow. The men stumbled backward, instinct driving them to reach for weapons. "Open fire," Caldwell barked, his voice barely piercing through the din. Men's eyes blazed to life, and for a breath, the chaos became a muddle of light and sound, the air thickening with the acrid stench of burnt powder. James raised his rifle, the sights aligning with the advancing figures, and as his finger pulled the trigger, everything fell away. The world collapsed to just him and the action. He could hear shouts, see the enemy soldiers falter, but all that mattered was the focus, the clarity of the moment overtaking him. Their lines were holding, but the Germans came in waves, relentless and unyielding. The ground beneath them was soaked with snow and blood, a testament to the ferocity of their struggle. Each heartbeat drumming an unspoken promise to survive, but every flicker of hope was met with the reality that many would not. Then James spotted Caldwell, his silhouette moving swiftly through the fray, shouting orders that seemed to echo across the cacophony of war. He was a beacon, a leader, but in the next breath, everything changed. A sudden scream rose above the din, curdling his blood. The sergeant had been hit. "No, no," James cried as Caldwell crumpled under the weight of shrapnel, his figure becoming a fleeting vision against the backdrop of destruction. The squad faltered. Uncertainty slithered through them, threatening to undermine their resolve. "Follow me," Caldwell groaned through gritted teeth, a determination burning fiercely in his eyes that spoke of refusal to yield. His voice commanding, each word carrying the weight of the lives around him, igniting a fire deep within James as he struggled over to his side. "Sergeant, let me help you." James reached for him, yet Caldwell shook his head, pushing back against the pain etched across his features. They regrouped, hands trembling, faces twisted between fear and fury. The battle raged on, the cacophony swelling with moments that felt infinite, yet fleeting. Each burst of gunfire echoed the urgency of their survival, blurring the edges of right and wrong, friend and foe. They were entrenched in the reality of human emotion, panic mingled with resolve. "Get him back! We have to fall back!" David shouted as the Germans pushed them deeper into the woods, the cold biting into their skin, mirroring the encroaching despair. James's resolve peaked. He wasn't about to lose another man. "We fight," he shouted, infusing everything he had into those two words, fighting for his brother, for Caldwell, for the dreams yet to be realized. The Germans pressed onward, their resolve unyielding, but the Americans fought back, not just for survival, but for the thread of hope that connected them. Huddling near the gully, they fired in unison, pushing back against 3 times their number, their spirit becoming a force unto itself. But as time wore on, the victories came with heavy losses. One by one, they fell soldiers who had shared laughter over a cigarette, whispered dreams of home, until all that was left was a hollow shell of what once was. With his heart racing, James felt desperation clawing at his throat. David had gone silent, and as he turned he saw his friend, blood spilling into the snow, eyes dimming with the extinguishing light. "No, no, no," he shouted, rushing forward to cradle David against him. It's okay, Jim," David gasped, his breath shallow, struggling to find the strength in his voice. "Just keep fighting. No, you're going to be okay. Help is coming," James cried, tears cascading as the air shattered with the echo of battle. The sound mingled painfully with David's fading breaths. "Remember the Grand Canyon," David murmured, fading into stillness. "Promise." The weight of his friend felt heavier than a mountain as it pressed down on James, a crushing burden filled with loss, regret echoing around him. The roar of gunfire dulled as sorrow swept over him like an unexpected wave, consuming the last shred of belief he had clung to. Yet it was that very moment, in the crucible of grief, that his heart ignited anew. Through the haze of heartbreak, clarity emerged. This was war. It was ruthless and tragically beautiful in its rawness. Others had died for him, for the men they had become, and he would not let that sacrifice be in vain. With determination filling his lungs, James rose, drawing a breath that tempered the edges of his fury and grief. "For David," he roared, leading his remaining brothers in the desperate fight to hold their ground. With renewed vigor, they surged forward, a tide of resolve flowing as they charged into the onslaught, pushing through their exhaustion. through every haunting image of loss. With each shot fired, they fought not just for survival, but as a tribute to the fallen, a defiance against the darkness threatening to swallow them whole. Finally, as the day wore on, the panic of defeat changed course. Straining their resolve, they held their line, refusing to back down. Together, they pushed the enemy forces into retreat, a surge of primal victory, shimmering amidst the embers of destruction. Exhausted, hearts racing, they collapsed into the snow, a mixture of elation and sorrow flooding through the weary men who had marched down the barren lines of existence and returned as something different altogether. They had raised their voices against death and despair, and in that moment, they had found each other, if only for a breath. Winter's chill wrapped around them, but the warmth of brotherhood filled the space that once lingered in uncertainty. James pressed his back against the icy ground, the weight of everything settling around him. The battle would be remembered, each soul woven into the narrative of history. Collective suffering and courage fused together to create a tapestry honoring the fallen. As night descended upon the ruins of battlefield, the hushed silence now an uneasy ceasefire, James could almost hear David's laugh, feel the rush of wind at the Grand Canyon as they both stood there in their fantasies of freedom. He had fought, oh how he had fought, and swore to hold the memory of his fallen brothers tight, nestled within the very core of his being. The shadows twinkled with an ethereal glow, the lives entwined in stories yet to be told, leaving a bittersweet mark on history that would echo long after their voices were hushed. As the fire smoldered beside him, James closed his eyes, carrying with him the weight of sorrows past and the flicker of hope for the tomorrows yet to come, forging his own destiny beneath a blanket of stars.